we almost need to go like back to the future with the bowls a little bit. We're going on 30 years now of SEC teams versus Big Ten teams in Orlando and Tampa.
It's
how many more times can you see Iowa play Tennessee or Iowa or whoever Iowa plays? I mean, or Illinois was new, a new kind of a fresh face, although they were in Tampa 2 years ago. Why don't we have a bowl draft? So if you did a bowl draft and allow conferences, if you haven't played, like, because now you don't play most of your conference during the season. If you hadn't played, if South Carolina hadn't played
a bowl draft,
the bowl draft, dude, like number one.
So like you could be the little dork who's 11 and never gets picked to play baseball in the neighborhood, and it's like, Jesus, I got to go to Boise. Like, you could be that guy.
I mean, you put the bowls in the tiers, and then you have like a lottery, or you rotate it every year about the first pick. So in other words, the Citrus Bowl could have had either South Carolina, Miami, the two teams that were just out, or Alabama and Ole Miss. Now, the likelihood of Alabama's players, fans, coaches, whoever being more fired up to play a Michigan team that couldn't throw the ball forward versus Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. I would enjoy that. Alabama more, Ole Miss more. Then you'd have. So who's picking next? The Outback Bowl.
This is going to work.
It's going to be Miami and Carolina, and then also who's picking next? Well, I think I'll go with Colorado and Texas A&M. And then you get these great matchups. And then I mean, all right. Well, hey, I'm a Holiday Bowl. We have a big shipyard here. We're taking Navy, and we're going to match them up with LSU.
Oh, okay. So what are you going to do when Western Michigan is 6-6, and nobody wants them?
Well, somebody's got to play in pinstripe.
Okay.
I'm just going to tell you this right now.
How's it going to make
there's a little tiny
feel when they get picked last to play Western Michigan in Boise, Idaho?
Good for dude. Their
fans ain't going
with an 8-4 record.
Clemson went to you forget 01, dude. Clemson had a fax. This is how important bowls were back then. They weren't going to make it. The ACC, they were 6-5. They weren't going to make it 01, and they started a fax machine campaign to get invited to the humanitarian bowl in Boise, where Woody Dansler and the Tigers went and played Louisiana Tech in the snow. It was awesome. Meanwhile, South Carolina went to the Outback Bowl. That was a good moment. But nevertheless, there's a little bowl. The littler bowls are sometimes in awesome places, like the Bahamas Bowl that Pete Limbo's team went to. I'm like, well, if you're Western Michigan, you're like, well, give me that Bahamas Bowl now. Like nobody goes that bowl. That bowl a couple of years ago, they played it. There were 3 people, like seriously 10 people stand. But it's fun, and so you can those little guys to littler places, and you get variety. You don't have to go to Montgomery every year if you're a Sun Belt team, or Boise if you're a Mountain West team. I mean, you get kind of it's more interesting matchups. The games don't play all the time. Once you get past these teams didn't make the playoffs, so they're going to go duke it out. And you may end up, once you get to that mid-tier bowl area, you're going to end up with like a Tulane. Like Tulane played Florida this year in the Gasparilla Bowl. Unfortunately, Duke, of all teams, bought Tulane's quarterback for $8 million, and he left. Tulane couldn't really match up second half with the Gators. But that kind of matchup, hey, Tulane's excited to be there. Florida was they were actually excited to be there because they turned their season around. You're going to get some matchups like that with big schools versus group of fives. Group of fives will have a good shot. But this whole notion of, it's almost like kind of in prison right now with everything. It's like, no, you're at SEC, you got to go to the Music City or this, that, and the other. I'm sure the Music City Bowl at some point, would love to match up like Louisville and Southern Cal. Okay. Number one, Louisville, it's a short drive. They're going to bring 30,000 people watch them play the Trojans, right? But instead, we get Minnesota, Iowa, or whoever the hell else against Kentucky most years. Come on, man. I mean, I just, is that good for Nashville in December? And for TV, Mike, they should want interesting matchups. They want more, and not the same thing over and over again.
100%.
I know the ratings are going to probably be strong either way, but man, I would have loved to have seen Alabama play Ole Miss in a bowl game. Can you imagine that?
Yeah,
that would have been fun.
Yeah, would have been better than watching Ole Miss pick on a team. You mentioned Duke bought a quarterback. They also lost their quarterback because somebody bought their quarterback. So Duke didn't have a fighting chance, and you know what, to knock off Ole Miss in that game.